All right. So, forgive me, but this is my first attempt at ever doing a not in-person um, guitar lesson. So it's my first time really having to do this kind of like an actual professional teacher instead of just some dude who's teaching you how to jam out. So, with that being said, it's probably not going to be the greatest, but we'll get better over time. So, today what we're going to talk about is we're going to do an intro. Basically, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to pretend that you guys know nothing. You've never picked up a guitar in your entire lifetime, and I'm just going to start from the very basics. So if this first lesson isn't the most exciting, or if you guys are already started to play and have the general basics down, just bear with me. We will get into playing and doing scales and your chords and all that stuff. It will just be in the next video. Maybe a little bit at the end of this video. We'll see how much time we have going on here. So what I'm going to do today, like I said, assume you've never picked up one of these lovely six-stringed instruments, and I'm going to go and start with the basics. Parts of your guitar. Up top, you see the lovely things up here? These are tuning keys. They're what you use to, you guessed it, tune your guitar. Your guitar is strung, if you do standard E, which is the most widely used tuning, it is obviously the standard tuning for most songs, and that is standard E tuning. So each string has a place and a note place in which they use. We're going to start from your bottom string, which some people call the top, but it's not. Technically, it's your bottom. And that's E. Next string up, A, D, G, B, high E. And that's your general string notation and how you tune your guitar for standard E tuning. To tune your guitar, most of you guys can go out, you can purchase a really standard tuner. They're really inexpensive. Gibson makes a wonderful one. N-Tune makes a really wonderful one. And what those will do is they'll help you get into tune as long as you know what you're going into. Something easier if you guys are in the room to show you, but you're not. So that is your standard. Once you get into E, a really quick cheat, if you want to make sure your guitar is in tune, once you have your E in tune via a tuner, or you go on YouTube and you have someone strum the standard E and you crank your tuning key until you reach that tune, quick way to do it is come from your 5th fret, starting at E, strike your E and your A. If you are in tune, as you can hear from my guitar, they should be a nice, perfect harmony there. Should be the same note. If it's not, either tune up or down on your A string or whatever string you're going with, and keep adjusting it until it matches and you get that nice. And you do that all the way up on the 5th fret. So A to D, D to G. Now, when you get to tuning your top 2 strings, your B and your high E, you want to switch from the 5th fret, go down to the 4th fret, holding it on your G string. It should match, and to do from B to E, you return to the 5th fret. As you can hear, my guitar is nice and good and ready to go. Easy way to check. Let's try a nice little chord and see if it works. Now, that starts with your tuning in your string order. Next, you'll notice most of your guitars will have either 2 to 4 knobs at the bottom of them. On your standard 2, this controls the volume of both of your humbuckers, or in my case, cluster pickups. And this will control your core volume, the top string. In the middle, you'll have your knob, or sometimes for a Les Paul, depending on what you have. Acoustic obviously will have none of this, so you can completely disregard that. But have your control knob, and that switches between lead, both pickups, and rhythm at the bottom. Sometimes on a Les Paul it'll be a little bit different. There'll be rhythm at the top, split between the buckers and your lead. But that will control basically which pickups are working, whether it be your front or rear pickup, or as you know, your neck or your bridge pickup. Bottom switch here is your tone switch, and that controls the sound depth and tone to which your guitar is played. From a low, subtracted fuzzy one, and the higher you go, the higher the tone and pitch. So, that's the general parts of your guitar and your general controls for an electric guitar. Acoustic, as I said, you can pretty much disregard the tone knob and such speech. So, that concludes your general parts to your guitar and your standard tuning. Now, once you're in standard tuning, or whatever tuning you desire, because you can do D, there are a multitude which we'll cover in future videos. But once you have your tuning set, you're pretty much ready to play. Now, a lot of people have different preferences on how they like to play. Myself for guitar, I'm capable of finger picking. I like it. It's fun. But I'm your classic standard pick user. For me, I use the Dunlop Tortex one, and it is the 0.73 millimeter. You can get those on Amazon. They're like $3. Pack of 12 of them will last you, depending on the amount you play, anywhere from a week to about a month and a half, depending on whether you lose them, flick them, break them. Most of the times it's going to be break them. This is what's considered a medium gauge pick. There are several different gauges to pick. There's the lights, and it just really depends on what type of tone and volume you're going for. Most people who play just classical rock and roll and punk to some early thrash to folk will tend to use the medium style pick, either the 0.73 or the 0.75, and you can get those also from Dunlop, but they're made from nylon, which is a whole different discussion for a different day. But most standardly, you can start out with the 0.73 pick. It's the one I recommend. It's the one I use. If you're going for something a little bit more fan picky and folky and more classical, like sweep guitar, you might want to go for a thinner gauge. We have a few of those in the box. So I can probably send you a list of the different gauges that they have. But again, just starting out, I would say stick with the 0.73, stick with Dunlop Tortexes. They're an awesome brand. You can pretty much beat them to hell and they'll still play out here. So, I guess jumping into actually learning how to maneuver around your instrument and play, two things are really, really, really important. Your dexterity in your hands and your positioning and how you pick. How you pick could change completely and entirely how the sound of your guitar is made. I know a lot of people see like the classic old school heavy metal videos and the guys straight up and down rocking. Really cool if you want a Ramones punk sound, very, very nifty. Hell, I used it for years because, well, it's just fun. It doesn't give you much control, and it's technically not proper. And what I kind of want to do is showing you in how you're maneuvering around your instrument is the proper way that you should anchor and hold your pick. Now, your pick should be placed between your index finger and your thumb, like so, kind of like you're pinching it, a little pinch. Yeah. I'm so glad this is mostly my friends watching this video. So I'm going to be a gigantic goofball. If these ever make it onto YouTube and I actually start doing this normally, and somehow this video finds its way out there, I'm a gigantic fucking goofball. You will see me do stupid shit throughout these videos. Back to the lesson at hand, though. You want to kind of give it like a nice little pinch. Kind of almost like you're making the dreaded upside down, okay, I'm about to kick you in the nuts. Take your pinky onto your bridge. Kind of like anchor it there. Don't hook on and hang on for dear life, but just kind of anchor it there and give it like a point basis so you have a fulcrum, so to speak, something you can just kind of pivot on back and forth. Most of the motion that's coming out of your picking shouldn't be more coming from your forearm and your elbow which will adjust. Don't get me wrong; they're gonna move. You're one gigantic moving body part. So most of that motion though should be coming from your wrist. It gives you better control. It gives you better management of how heavy you're picking, which will also change your tone and sound. So again, you want to just take your pinky, anchor it on, like so. Kind of lift my guitar up, do the Yingwei thing and play somewhat up. Give that a nice anchor somewhere. And as you can see, that gives you a nice control over where you are. You know what string you're playing. As you can hear there, it gives you a really nice tone. And it gives you some nice speed. So especially if you're one of like the thrash freaks, or you're heavy into punk, like the earlier types of Ritalin punk, where it's real quick picking, especially when it comes to like trem picking, which we'll get into in a little bit actually, because I'm going to start really here with these different types of picking. But standard, just normal rock and roll picking, it just helps. It gives you better control, especially when you're doing a bar, so you only have to strike 2 to 3 strings instead of the full spectrum with a normal chord. It gives you just that better control. Gives you better speed. If I don't mess up, which that was terrible, so don't even count that, but you get my point. It gives you that classical thing. And the motion should be more on the wrist, a solid up and down motion, striking the strings on both the descent and the return. Easiest style of picking, again, used in classical blues. To your straight newer forms of just standard rock and roll and classical punk, basically anything, like your Led Zeppelin. Remember, again, you want to keep your finger anchored as you're doing it, and it's mostly a wrist motion, just that up and down, not like a full ha, but just a nice gentle up and down motion. That's your standard, just your normal up and down. Then you also have your power picking, which is also, again, mounting your finger. And that's just a straight power picking. It's several different terms, by the way. Down picking is the actual musical term for it is the down pick. But it's a power pick because it goes with the power chord. Again, indigenous of more heavier stuff, and that's that classic like James Hetfield, Metallica, you know, that style stuff. A lot of the Ramones. And that's where you're just striking the chord that you're hitting on just the descent. When you're coming back up, you're not going to strike any of the other strings. So the only actual strike that is happening is the initial down pick, and when you're actually hitting the note for the first time. And that gives it a lot of depth and a lot of power. And that's good, again, if you're doing more of that really punchy type of rock and roll. A lot of the main riffs in like Black Sabbath songs are down picked. Again, Metallica, insane amount of down picking. So again, it's just that punchier sound to it. And again, it's also a very, very controlled style of picking. So you're only hitting the two actual notes in the chord that you're doing. So then you have things for the really extreme. I'm going to step off camera for a second because I'm going to go hit distortion on my amplifier, because I'm going to show you trem picking, and that's used for, you guessed it, it's heavy metal. So give me one sec. For those of you who have never been down here before, Mustafar, as my band likes to call it, because it gets hotter than hell down here. The music studio is a maze of wires, so it takes me a few seconds to get my way around. There we go. Note to self, next time have my pedal sitting on the ground here so I can avoid taking a momentary lapse in a video like that. But trem picking, it's the next type we're going to discuss, and that's used again for metal. That's famously used by pretty much every thrash and burn band that you're going to see, like later Metallica, as they got more into Justice for All, when they started the severe gallop picking. Kirk Hammett was really, really profound with the style of picking. Later types of metal and earlier types of metal, Iron Maiden to do the gallops that you all love in the Trooper and things, that is a form of trem picking. And it is basically, again, you're anchoring one of your fingers kind of. Now you're coming into your chord, which we'll go over in the next video. We'll start doing your chords. Your chord is basically two strings that you're holding into a bar, so you can either play the full note or you can just focus on the two strings and play the power note. So it's taking those two strings that you're focusing on, and now you're going to quickly, striking on both the down pick and the forward, quick motion with your wrist, kind of adding a little bit of the thumb motion into there. But again, it's just focusing on the two main notes of the chord that you're holding. And that goes for no matter what you're playing. Alright, so those are three of your most commonly used types of picking. And one thing they have all in common again, and the key basically, and I can't stress this enough, having your pick in that little pinch motion and anchor your pinky somewhere, it just gives you so much more control. It is the actual proper way to do things. So if you want to learn classical music and classical folk guitar, you're going to have to learn how to poise. It's just going to the best way to do it. I mean, you can go and do the classic punk down pick, or you can do that nice whichever way you do it, you're not going to negate the fact that also most of the motion is going to be in your wrist. As much as you're going to be tempted to be the big rock star and be like, yeah, don't do that. That's not the proper way to do it. So now, we've gone over the parts of your instrument, the standard tuning that most bands and everything in most music is written in, and how to tune your instrument. We've gone over the proper pick positioning and how to anchor and properly pick your instrument. Again, just as a review, general folk or normal, just standard picking. Striking every string on both the down and the return, or whatever strings that you are depressing for your chord. Finger or select picking. This is where you're hitting every note individually in the chord that you are depressing. classic down pick. Usually done with something we call a palm mute, which is something we'll get into possibly later in this video or in the next one. We're doing actual chords, because in so many different types of music, the palm mute is necessary. But back to that down picking, which is just striking the notes once in a sweeping motion, not coming back up, hitting anything, just on the descent. Then you have treading. Which is sweeping, hitting both on the descent and return in a quick motion, piloted by the wrist and the thumb. So, we've got picking down. Now, we're going to have to teach you at least one chord in this video, or two, so you can practice your picking. And that's what I want you to do from now until, I figure it'll probably be another 2 days before I make another video for you. Whoever's doing this, you guys have my email, you have my phone number and all that stuff. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to mail me, call me. Send me a video of you playing and practicing the chords I'm about to show you in your picking style. If you have any questions attached with it, be like, hey, am I holding this right? Am I going for here right? Is this what I want to do? Doesn't matter what it is. Send me a video. Ask me. Feel free. Now, just to practice your picking, I'm going to teach you two really, your E chord, which is real easy. And that is, you're going to take your index finger, place it on the A string, which is your second string, in your second fret. You're going to take your middle finger, and you're going to place it on the D string, which is your third string, and that's also in the second fret. You're not going to depress any further strings. When strumming, you're going to strum the first three strings up until where your depression stops. We're going to move on to G next, which is your index finger again. Still in that second fret on that second string on your A string. Only this time your middle finger is going to be on your E string, or your first string, the bottom string here, in the third fret. All the rest of your fingers are going to perch up like so, and you're not going to hit anything else but the first three strings. You can also do it that way too, which is easier for some people, and switch over to, instead of using your middle finger to come down on C string, you can use your ring. I mean, that's the one I prefer. It gives you a little bit, again, more controlled, precise over everything. But, so your first chord again, your E, second and third strings push down in the second fret, and you're going to strum. And then you proceed on to your G chord, which is again your ring finger placed on the E string on the third fret, and your index finger on the A string in the second fret. And you're just going to do a simple chord progression like that, and that'll just help you strum. And you can choose either one of those, or you can try doing a progression, which is one followed by the other. But even for right now, if you just want to do the simple E, second and third string on the second fret, and just practice your types of picking. after you've done this for a little while and you're familiar with how your hand should move, in the next video we'll start actually teaching you more chords and some of your power chords so you can actually start playing and making music with your instruments. We'll teach you simple songs from Black Sabbath's Paranoid. I might be sarcastic and do some B.B. King for you guys later on as we start hitting scales. Oh, something I forgot earlier and I made reference to them. These boxes on your guitar, if we're going over parts again. Again, sorry, these videos will get better as it goes. I'm usually more of an in-person teacher, so it's weird for me to be recording a video and have to remember everything as I go. These little boxes on your guitar, you see them going all the way down your neck. These are your frets. This is where I will identify to you until we start getting into music notation and into theory, where I can tell you E sharp, A sharp, etc. For right now, it'll be E on 7, so your 7th fret on your E string. That is how I'll be instructing you guys on how to do most of these notes. Same with your scales, like your standard pentatonic. I'll tell you to start, say for instance, on E3, which is your E string on your 3rd fret, and move up to E5, which is on that same string, in the 5th fret. Then to A3, A5, A6, back down to A5, back down to A3, back down to E5, back down to E3. That's your standard pentatonic, or the blues scale of that. But that is how I will be teaching you guys where to hit until we get into theory, and I can tell you, you're going to hit an E sharp here, or an A there. But we won't worry about that for right now, because to be honest with you, theory is a bitch. Myself, I didn't even really start diving into theory and learning theory and even reading sheet music until, well, fuck, I had been playing for almost 20 years at that point, before I was like, oh, I probably should learn how to read this shit. You should learn how to read it. I won't discourage anybody learning how to read it, but as you can tell, it's not necessary, because I got to where I am just fucking around. That's really how I figured out and learned how to play, was just watching endless videos of people like Tony Iommi, and as you guys know, bass is my primary instrument. You can see an army of them sitting behind me. I learned that from watching old videos of Geezer Butler and Cliff Burton, and just through watching how their fingers went. So that's, to me, is how I teach when I'm in person. So I'm going to be doing a lot of that. I'll just be calling out what I'm doing as I'm doing it, just to give you a little feel for what we're going to do. Just because I figured that's the best way to learn. I mean, it's a hands-on way of learning. It's not that classic, dull, dry Mr. Rogers sitting there telling you, well, now to A 7th, to D minor 6th, and you're going to arpeggiate that note. No, we're not going there. I'm going to give you the most simple rundown of things and try and break it down in the easiest way I can, because honestly, you're taking a really complex instrument, I mean, for what it's worth, and you're breaking it down to simplicity is a little bit of a pain in the ass. Again, why I prefer the in-persons, but we're quarantined, so this is the best we can do. Eventually I want to do live sessions too, so where we go on, I can see all of you guys, you can see me, and I can teach you a live lesson, which would be kind of cool. It'll probably be where we're going to evolve to. But this is where we started now. Again, today we're just doing a simple lesson, and that was it. As we go on, the next lesson I'm going to teach you your basic general core chords, which are the basic chords and the foundation of most songs that you guys hear. I'm going to turn off my distortion for a second. Oh yeah, and for those of you guys who are following us on the electric guitar and not the acoustic, as I know there are a few of both out there, for those of you who are wondering, I play out of orange amplifiers. I come out of a Crush 35, what is it? Yeah, 35 LDX, which is a recalled model now. Guitar I'm playing is an Epiphone Studio Edition. I'm coming out of an 8kg wireless system. So, just in case you guys want to know that stuff, we'll go over technology for guitars in future episodes for the people that play electric, and for acoustic, I'll do a breakdown of those at a later video too. But again, getting into the next video, we're going to teach you your core chords, which you use in most rock and roll. Your E's, your A's, your G's, your D minors, and all those, etc. So as I said, these are the core chords that start off all of your bass scales. They start off all of your bar chords, and they are basically the essential building blocks of playing guitar. And we'll go into how to play those in the next video. This video, again, we started with E and G, which are, believe it or not, two of the more common, because it's that. Or the classic 50s. That was the classic building blocks of the rockabilly, and they're probably the two easiest chords to hold because they're simple two spots. You can do their extended versions where your pinky would have to come down to high E. That's for full strum. Same with E, where it would be your middle and index holding on to your second and third strings in the second fret, and your index finger coming up to your fifth string, which is your B on the first fret. Sorry, correction. Your A and D string on the second fret, your G string on the first fret. So, practice the two strings I've given, the two chords I've given you, the A and the G. Practice your strumming and keeping your anchoring and all the different types of picking that we went over today. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to send me a video and be like, hey, this is what I'm doing. What am I doing wrong? Or am I doing this right? Or is it okay to do this? And I will absolutely answer you as quickly as possible. I hope you enjoyed this first one. I hope it wasn't too silly and I didn't make too many like goofy mistakes. Yeah, I look forward to teaching you guys some more guitar while we're all on quarantine. So when we come out of quarantine, the world will have a butt ton of new musicians to kind of fill the void and revitalize our scene, because it's really going to need it. So I hope you guys enjoy the videos. I hope you continue to watch. I hope you continue to let me teach you the best way I can, unfortunately for right now. And I wish you excellent, tasty jams. Till next time.